Hey again, welcome back to Daily Dose of Anime Recaps. In this video, we'll be covering episodes 1 through 6 of the series Tokyo 24th Ward. This series is set upon the 24th Ward of Tokyo, basically a man-made island which has yet to be officially incorporated as part of Tokyo City. This series portrays how the mayor of Tokyo's 24th Ward, namely Kouki Suidou, uses tyrannical and unjust means to tighten security and eliminate crime from his ward. As for the protagonists, it's a bunch of boys nicknamed as RGB, who set out to prevent disasters from happening after taking a miraculous glimpse into the future. On a side note, the nickname RGB refers to their individual hair colors. In the initial scene, we witness the Takara Elementary School ablaze and being burned to cinders. High schooler Shuuta arrives at the arson spot and learns how his childhood friend Asami rushed into the inferno not long ago. Both his friends, Ran and Kouki, try to stop him but fail. Being short on time, Shuuta simply knocks them both out before rushing headfirst into the fiery building. Unfortunately, by the time he arrives, Asami is already on her last breaths. Turns out, poor girl was crushed beneath fallen concrete while trying to rescue Kotsue, her teacher's daughter. Being fond of playing hero since childhood, Shuta's spirit of heroism is finally crushed after failing to save a dear friend. A year later, Shuta's sleep is ruined thanks to a call from Koba, his ex-teacher from back in high school. Turns out, a memorial service for the victims of Takara Elementary fire is to be held today, and not attending the ceremony is out of the question, of course. Before heading off, Shuuta witnesses two hooligans acting troublesome at his native food street, and therefore teaches them a painful lesson. Next, we see Ran, who's busy making illegal graffiti art while in disguise. Soon, he too heads off to the memorial service, despite being close to exhaustion. Finally, we witness the third friend, Kouki, having a chat with Suragawa, his dad's special aide, as well as Kouki's babysitter. Both discuss how Hazard Cast effectively predicts future crimes by utilizing a heckload of surveillance cameras installed throughout the city. Such cameras and biosensors pick up on cues regarding crimes, and thus inform all civilians of the incoming hazard via C-phones. What's more, the Special Administrative Region Guard, or simply SARG, then utilizes Hazard Cast to predict crimes and provide timely assistance in case of an emergency. Upon reaching the memorial service, all three friends are surprised to see each other, and it's definitely not a happy one. In fact, saying none of them is too thrilled to be in each other's company would be an understatement. Unfortunately, they can't do anything except suck it up for a while and bear each other's company. Kouki's father, who's also the ward's mayor known as Kouki Suidou, starts the event with a boring sermon. He later starts rambling about how Takara Elementary fire situation wasn't a coincidence, rather a case of an attempted arson for reasons unknown. Sadly enough, due to a lack of security cameras installed in the area, Hazard Cast failed to predict the incoming criminal attack, resulting in the loss of many innocent lives. As for the culprit, he still roams the streets freely and without being punished whatsoever. With all this, Kouki reinstates the importance of Hazard Cast and how it's crucial in order to formulate a peaceful society. Shuuta and the others witness the tearful Kotsue being taken away in the middle of the ceremony. Koba later shares how his daughter's been aggrieved and antisocial ever since Asami died while trying to save her. At present, Kotsue is neither willing to attend school, nor does she head out too often. Later on, Shuuta is cornered by Chikushi, a SARG agent, and is questioned about the identity of Do-Red's leader, and whether the criminal has anything to do with Shuta's buddy, Ran. In reality, Ran is indeed the founder as well as the genius leader of Do-Red. Not willing to sell out his friend, Shuuta simply slips away without saying an extra word. Meanwhile, Ran explains to his Do-Red member Kanako how the mayor, Kouki Suidou, claims that rigorous societal control is the key to a peaceful society. However, that's just lip service, since from the very moment of Hazard Cast's creation, bias against members from Shantytown was introduced into it. Although Shantytown is indeed the dwelling place of unruly ruffians and social outcasts, Ran often wonders what pushes its natives to the cliff's edge and end up becoming criminals. According to him, it's the unfair and prejudiced Hazard Cast system that forces those people to become criminals out of desperation. That said, who's truly disrupting peace in Shantytown is a question that bothers Ran quite often. Later in the afternoon, all three friends head to their friend Mari's place for lunch. Ran yet again poses the same questions about Hazard Cast being biased and unfair in front of Kouki, the mayor's own son. Being an intern at SARG, Kouki also holds strong opinions and claims how the whole Hazard Cast deal is for the benefit of society, nothing else. The insightful conversation is interrupted once all three receive phone calls at the same time. Guess who's calling? Yep, it's none other than Asami, Kouki's dead little sister. Despite the shock, all three of them answer the phone nonetheless and have have a weird vision implanted in their brains. In the vision, Shuuta, Ran, and Kouki witness the newly built Kitsuna train running speedily across its tracks. Unfortunately, their friend Mari is stuck in those tracks and is in danger of being run over by the train. Asami thus tells them to choose either one of the two futures. Option number 1 is to let the train derail and save their friend Mari. Doing so would result in the death of more than 100 innocents. Meanwhile, the second choice is to let the train continue running its course and witness Mari getting crushed into meat powder. At first, all three brush off the vision as nothing but a mere prank. Astonishingly, though, the events of the Kitsuna train's opening ceremony start unfolding in the same direction as predicted not long after. First, Mari gets stuck in the train tracks while trying to capture her runaway puppy. Up next, the train's brakes fail, and so it continues rushing towards Mari at full speed. Realizing what's going on, the RGB put on their headphones and struggle to erase the two dreadful futures and write one of their own. All three are shocked at having their abilities enhanced magically. For one, Shuta's body feels light as a feather, allowing him to leap off tall buildings as if it's nothing. As for Ran, his tech-savvy brain becomes hypercharged, allowing his hacking skills to skyrocket exponentially. Last but not least, the politically deft Kouki becomes even more mindful of his words. Therefore, the diplomatic kid knows just what to say to convince others. First, Ran warns the mayor and everybody else of the inevitable disaster. Next, he hacks into the train's system and pulls off the emergency brakes. Unfortunately, Mari's still in danger of being run over since the train's momentum forces it to continue rushing despite pulling the brakes. As for Kouki, he manages to convince his father not to derail the train, as doing so would definitely result in a tragedy as foretold in the vision. Finally, Shuta's superhuman strength and agility allows him to race against time as well as the Kitsuna train, and finally succeed in rescuing Mari. In the aftermath, the optimistic Shuuta declares how there's still a chance Asumi's still alive. Kouki's way more pessimistic though, as he even lashes out at Shuuta for tearing open wounds from the past. The friends call it a day afterwards and depart for their separate destinations. Mari is later reprimanded by Sarg for being careless and causing such a huge scene. Thankfully, she escapes her dilemma thanks to Kouki pulling a couple of strings to help her out. In the morning, Shuuta shares the whole receiving call from Asumi matter with Mari. She too considers the whole incident to be a mere prank, saying how Asumi's dead for sure. Later that night, Mari coincidentally happens to eavesdrop on Koba and Chikushi. Chikushi hints at how the outcome of the upcoming Gore Fest food tournament has already been decided. From the looks of it, Mari's rival, Yabusame, isn't going to pull his punches and will probably resort to any means necessary to win the tournament. Back in her car, Mari reminisces about how Asumi ran in to rescue others despite her intervention during the Takara elementary fire. As a result, the cheerful girl ended up dead, leaving a permanent scar on her friend Mari's heart. Far as Mari's concerned, dealing with the RGB trio is next to impossible without Asumi holding those three hooligans in check. On the day of the Gore Fest, Mari's face becomes crestfallen upon learning how all cabbages from the local market have vanished all of a sudden. Without any fresh cabbages, she won't be able to make delicious treats and would end up losing the competition. Shuuta, Ran, and Kouki decide to investigate matters for Mari's sake. As a result, they learn how Yabusame's lackeys had bought away all cabbages beforehand, definitely to prevent Mari from winning. Having been raised in Shantytown, Ran isn't the type to shy away from using ill means to do what he believes in. That said, the redhead lunatic is of the mind to screw open Yabusame's warehouse using a crowbar and resume all those poor cabbages. Unfortunately, being Ran's polar opposite, Kouki blocks his path, not willing to let any crimes occur under his watch. The quarrel is resolved thanks to Koba, who utilizes his far-spread connections to arrange the cabbages from somewhere else. Even after losing the cabbage round, Yabusame still appears confident of his victory. This keeps the RGB boys puzzled until Chikushi from Sarg finally pulls the curtain and reveals the truth. Turns out, Yabusame offered to pull a couple of strings and let Kaba's daughter, Kotsui, study from home since she refuses to attend school. The only condition is for Koba to turn a blind eye during Gorefest and let Yabusame cheat his way to victory. Being Kotsui's father, none can blame Koba for doing what's best for his daughter. Shuuta rejects Chikushi's suspicions though, claiming how Koba won't betray his convictions, not even with his own daughter's future at stake. His belief is proven correct once Koba busts Yabusame for being a fraud and has Mari declared as the ultimate victor of the food competition. Right then, all three RGB boys simultaneously receive a call from none other than Asumi again. Kouki's presumably dead sister elaborates how a horrific tornado is on its way to the Gorefest site. That said, RGB members have two choices. Option number one is to evacuate through the bridge, while the the second option is to barricade themselves in a nearby warehouse. Unfortunately, neither of the two methods is fail-proof, and surely a ton of people will die either way. As with the Katsuna train matter, RGB boys decide to ignore the choices given to them yet again, striving for a more favorable outcome. First of all, Ran and Kouki together instruct Shuuta to rid the bridge of all vehicles present, so that they don't halt the evacuation progress. Next up, Kouki uses his silver tongue to convince Koba of the tornado's arrival, and has him make an announcement to inform all others as well. Meanwhile, Ran hijacks all cargo trailers nearby, and has them delivered to the bridge sites for people to take refuge in. Unfortunately, thanks to a lack of teamwork and coming up with their separate individual plans, Ran's cargo trailer ends up blocking the bridge. Thankfully, Koba takes charge while Ran and Kouki are busy cursing each other for being stupid and brainless. The boy's ex-teacher, Koba, has all cargo trailers band together and ties them up with a rope as a means to resist pressure from the tornado. Just then, Shuuta spots Kotsui forcefully clinging to a pole while the fearsome tornado draws near. Koba too notices his daughter's perilous situation and rushes to her aid instantly. Later on, Shuuta manages to rescue Kotsui and distance them both from the tornado. Sadly enough, Koba himself fails to scurry away in time and is blown away by the tornado. In the end, despite all their efforts, more than a dozen fatalities occur, including Kotsui's father and RGB's beloved teacher, Koba. What's more, a mysterious weirdo named Carneades hacks into computers and mobile phones citywide, hinting how he was behind the recent tornado incident. What's more, in the coming future, he plans upon forcing further future choices upon the residents of 24th Ward. Days later, Chikushi assigns Kouki with the task to solve the deadly Drug D's mystery. That way, Kouki can also level up his experience and gain access to more confidential information. Same afternoon, Mayor Gory had a meeting with the casino king named Howard. Both planned to use underhanded tactics to raise Shantytown and build a casino in its place instead. To that end, they even bribed media outlets to highlight recent crime events at Shantytown, thus raising awareness among the public for the need to redevelop the area. Later that night, Kotsui sneaks off to Shantytown on her own. Luckily, Shuuta spots her and ends up following her despite being told not to. After all, the slums aren't a place for some kid to roam freely. Unfortunately, Shuuta loses track of Kotsui after being forced to help nearby SARG agents with capturing a runaway drug dealer. Afterwards, Shuuta wishes to utilize Hazardcast to locate Kotsui, but fails. Ko blames Shantytown's old buildings, as well as the lack of enough surveillance cameras, as the reason behind the failure. The teenager also highlights the need for the area's redevelopment, just like his father often does. Thankfully, Shuuta ends up bumping into Ran, who confirms how Kotsui is currently body-gazing at graffiti art along with Kunai, a Do-Red member. Turns out, Ran had recently been drawing art in the name of his deceased teacher, Koba. Kotsui happened to witness a photo of one such piece online, and therefore came to see it in person. The little girl is awe-inspired upon learning how it's Do-Red's leader, the one creating graffiti art in the name of her father. All this while, she remains unaware how Ran is in fact the said leader of Do-Red. Far away, Ran reveals to Shuuta how he uses his graffiti art to change people's hearts, as well as counter the biased and unfair Hazard caste system. After all, said system is the real reason behind the spike in the area's crime rate. Fun time's over soon, as all three RGB members yet again receive a call from Asami. The ghost girl reveals how a nearby boat is at risk of being blown to smithereens. The choice this time is to either let over 100 innocents die, or simply locate the sniper and shoot him dead. For Kouki, the choice couldn't have been easier, since the lives of dozens of innocents matter far more than a petty criminal. For Ran, though, things get complicated here. After all, the sniper shown in the vision is none other than Kunai, Ran's childhood friend, as well as the earliest member of Do-Red. As a result, Ran misleads both Shuuta and Kouki in the wrong direction while attempting to figure out the situation on his own. We then see flashbacks from when both Ran and Kunai were kids. The latter had been desperate since he couldn't do graffiti art like his friend Ran did. Kunai thus tried his hand at hacking, hoping to become Ran's equal and stand on equal footing by mastering a different skill. What's funny is that the ingenious Ran surpassed Kunai in hacking abilities as well. Back in the present, Ran recalls how Kunai had been developing a peculiar app named Diva lately, one that could read a user's biorhythm by utilizing the C-phone's inbuilt sensors, and thus create the most ideal music to help them heal. Back then, Ran had pointed out how hurting others through the app is possible by reversing the healing process. This worried Kunai, who was all but ready to eliminate the app. At that very moment, he was approached by Yabusame, who offered a high price in return for his app, Diva. Being dirt poor, the desperate Kunai couldn't resist selling his app to Yabusame, hoping his creation would be in good hands. Reality proved him wrong, though, as Yabusame soon installed a dark mode in his app. Said mode altered the user's mind, forcing them to lose all sense of reasoning and end up being criminals. Finding all that, Kunai felt betrayed and guilty. Unfortunately, the quiet dude refrained from revealing his mistake to Ran and the others, since another Do-Red member's nephew got killed thanks to his wretched creation. Later, upon investigation, Kunai learns how Yabusame's boss, Howard, wishes to redevelop Shantytown into a casino. For that purpose, he tricked Kunai and used his app to increase the area's crime rate activity. Long story short, Kunai implants a bomb on the very boat Howard and Yabusame are on currently. Shuuta infiltrates that very boat, hoping to neutralize the bomb. Unfortunately, he becomes targeted by Yabusame's men instead, who really don't know what's good for them. Left with no other choice, the kid evacuates upon Kouki's order. Finally, Ran fails to convince Kunai to let go, who's hell-bent on seeking vengeance. Turns out the guy has lost his sense of reasoning as well, thanks to indulging in Diva's dark mode lately. Left with no other choice, Kouki has Kunai killed right before the latter sends the boat flying sky high. Luckily, the shell-shocked Ran is rescued by his Do-Red members in time and escapes, being arrested by Sarg. Later, Kouki's upset upon learning of Ran's relationship with Kunai. As for Ran and his teammates, they all feel like being crushed by a mountain of guilt after not being there for Kunai in his hour of need. Just then, Kunai's last confession before his death gets uploaded online. The guy reveals the whole Diva scenario, with how Howard's men had him tricked for the purpose of Shantytown's redevelopment. He later admits being a part of Do-Red and pleads with his audience to support the group, since they all hope for whatever's best for the ward's residents. Couple days later, Shuuta pays a visit to Ran's hideout to check up on him. Not in the mood for chit-chat, Ran advises Shuuta not to step in here anymore. Turns out, after what Kouki did to Kunai, Ran's certain how his childhood friend and RGB member is gonna sell him out as Do-Red's leader to Sarg not long after. Shuuta remains optimistic and labels Ran's suspicions as nothing but mere paranoia. On the flip side, Mayor Gori decides how it's time to let his son Kouki in on Kane system, Gori's latest masterpiece. He reveals how his wife and Kouki's mother, Kane, had developed the algorithm for the system years ago. Regrettably, Kane failed to witness the fruit of her creation and got killed in a random mugging incident while Kouki was still a child. Next, Kouki's jaw drops to the ground upon witnessing his dead sister Asumi's corpse attached to the Kane system. Gori explains how true creation requires sacrifice. Furthermore, Asumi's gone already, so his actions don't make much of a difference anyway. As it happens, the system's completion required a human biological brain. What better choice did Gori have other than utilizing his own dear daughter's dead corpse? Having not recovered from the precious shock yet, Kouki fails to respond in time once his father starts hammering him for the true identity of Do-Red's leader. After a while, Ran's prediction is proven correct, as Kouki indeed betrays his friend for the sake of realizing the perfect world from his father's dream. Finally, we witness Ran tucking his tail in between his legs and making a run for it as Chikushi and his Sarg buddies attack Do-Red's secret base. This wraps up the episode's end, and we're left pondering several mysteries. Will Kunai's death and Kouki's betrayal serve as the straw that breaks the camel's back, ending with Ran becoming sworn enemies with his childhood buddy Kouki? Also, is Asumi truly dead as Gori claims her to be? Or is there a chance she's still alive in there somewhere, bound by wretched mechanical tubes as she currently is? Last but not least, who's the mysterious Carneades who threatens to force choices upon the ward's residents? We'll surely discover the answers within the next couple of episodes of Tokyo 24th Ward. And in case you're a subscriber with notifications enabled, you'll know as well soon enough.